A very good evening, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH286. A little bit rushing here because we've just had a visitor, Patricia and David, and it is the 22nd of July. And not a very, very pleasant day here for the 22nd of July. Monday it is on this the right side, except it's the left side of the dateline. But anyway, we have had rain and on and off pretty much all day. It is currently 14 degrees, 1002.2, and it's rising again, 9 knots from the west, and it's about 90% cloud cover. And as I mentioned, the rain has been on and off all day. Pretty similar to, in fact, what Reynard has been getting, going down from Fiji to Port Resolution. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But first of all, we have a request from the RCC. Now, we like to try and help them as much as possible because of the wonderful work that they do. The RCC is looking for any information about a boat called Oz Magic. Now, Oz Magic is a catamaran, and it left Pango Pango with 3 people on board on the 13th of July. Theoretically bound for Papeete, probably via the Cooks, Aitutaki probably. It's an Australian registered catamaran, a 13 metre boat, and there is a health and welfare out for them because nobody has heard from them. So if anybody knows where Oz Magic is and what their intentions are, any information since the 13th of July would be great. No use going on the AIS because that's over 2 months and 16 days old for when they were in Western Samoa. So if you've got any information at all about the boat Oz Magic and where they might be, what they might be doing, if you could please contact either me or go direct to the RCC. I'll give you their email address because it's useful to have it on board anyway. RCCNZ, that's short for Rescue Coordination New Zealand. So it's RCCNZ at MaritimeNZ, all one word run together, maritimenz.govt.nz. Please remember the T on the end of gov. I know a lot of countries just put gov, but officially and for correct English, if a word is abbreviated, you have to use the first letter and the last letter, which of course in government is G and the last letter is T. So it's govt.nz. Oh right, that's the English lesson finished with for the night. And let me tell you where Reynard 4 are, because they have a special day today. One of the crew, Alice, 8-year-old, today. And it's funny, isn't it, when you get a birthday at sea, you can't tell anyone where you were when you're in international waters, but you don't have that too often, so it will be a special day. 8 years old today for Alice. They are currently, or at 3 o'clock, they were at 1858 South, 17255 East, and they had wind since about 11:30 this morning. They'd had to be doing a lot of motoring overnight, so they're doing about 6 knots plus on a course of 256, and the wind is southeast 15 to 20, 1.5 meters south swell, and the rain on and off, 100% cloud cover, and the bar is 1014.6. And if you could hear me, Simon and the ladies, by noon tomorrow, you should be out of the trough, and things will be looking a lot drier, and not a problem for the last run to Port Resolution, where they hope to be there. Well, they certainly will be, because the wind will be up sometime between midnight and early morning tomorrow. That's tomorrow night. So there you go. Have a good time on board with the birthday celebrations, and I'll just see if there's anybody else. I know David has got a lot to talk about with the weather in terms of this low and what people are going to be experiencing, A, if they leave New Zealand, and B, if they're in Tonga. So I will make this short. Is there anybody out there wanting to make contact? Please call. No, nothing heard. We shall pass the microphone to the weatherman.
Well, yes, good evening to all of you out there, and especially those of you that are either in Minerva, which probably not too many, and for those in Tonga and worried about this depression that's forming. So we talked about it yesterday, and I'm sure most of you were listening. And so just in one single simple day, looking at everything again, I see changes in the atmospheric conditions. So the polar dip that we talked about, it's definitely evident. Uh, Lunchtime Thursday, at the axis, if you will, the point that I'm picking for that polar dip is about 22 and 177 east. So if you were to look at a synoptic chart or look at your models, you'll see the isobars how they dip at that point. So that position is just south of Kendavu, not just south, but it's south of Kendavu. Now Friday, closed isobars are seen. I'm not going to tell you just when they do close off because all the models are varying in their interpretation of what's going on. But the center is very roughly about 20 and 177 west, so 20 south and 177 west. Now winds at Minerva are going to be south southwest, and we could be looking at 30 to 40 knots. That's a 40. The models disagree in the lows center. The GFS analysis puts it at 24 and 176 west, just east of Minerva. It's hard to pinpoint the center, but still, Minerva should expect gale to storm force winds. No joke. But if you're in there dug in well, you're safe. No problem. Now, also lunchtime on Friday, we're looking at Tonga Tapu now, and there's quite a few people there trying to figure out whether to stay there or go up to the Hapais or go up to Vavau. Anyway, if you're going to do it, now's the time to do it. But if you don't, Friday at Tonga Tapu, the two models that we've been looking at, EC and GFS, they are, guess what? They're in disagreement again. Winds, GFS, northwest 15 to 20. By midnight, southwest 28 to 35. The EC, northeast 30 to 38 to 40 knots. And midnight, it swings around to the north 20 to 30, they say. Now by lunchtime on Saturday, GFS is looking at southwest 25 to 30 and EC southwest 35 to 50. I'll say that again. EC is looking at southwest 35 to 50, a big 50. Now those winds are the same for the Hapais. No difference in the wind velocities at that point. Now there'll be some relief on Sunday. I guess we can call it relief. Expect southerlies about 20 to 30 knots, and I'm looking at about lunchtime on Sunday. Now that 500 millibar low is still evident, closed off. The wind disagreements that we're seeing with the various models are mainly due to the differences in where they think that depression center is going to be. So you can picture how the winds would change as that model puts the center of the low in one position, another model puts it in a different position, and so forth and so on. So anyway, until they start to come together, which will probably be 1 to 2 days before it really happens. And that bad weather is going to be in the Friday, Saturday time frame. So the models at that point, is what I'm trying to say, are going to be more than likely totally in agreement at that point. Uh, as far as the central pressure, looking at about 994 millibar, and looking at the jet and the venting that we talked about vis-a-vis the jet. The jet's moving at about 122 knots, and it's producing a swell, not the jet, but this whole system is producing a swell of about 7.5 meters by Saturday, and that will be coming out of the southeast. 7.5 meters. You don't want to be out there in that kind of condition unless you want to test out your new boat. So that's the story. Boy, everything is in line with developing this system. We've had the we've had the MJO. It's ceasing to become active about now, but it's been active this last week. If you look at the models for that, and we've got that upper low, 500 millibar low, that has been forecast and been around for almost a week. So there's no question that something was going to happen up there. And the jet stream, no changes there. We expected to have a fairly robust jet, and that's what we're getting. So everything's in place for that depression. And we're very, very lucky because it is moving, it looks like, in a southeast direction, moving to the southeast. And hang on a minute.
Well, I just wanted to add something that's come through on streaming because Zumax are in French Polynesia, and they let us know that that low you're just talking about will pass just south of Tahiti while the Olympic surf matches are taking place. So there is going to be no problem with the amount of surf that the Olympians are going to be having south of Papeete. Goodness gracious me, I hope they're up for it. Back to David.
Yeah, well, there's not much more to add to this. I'm looking at satellite imagery right now, and we've got an active trough. It's broken, but it's still active where it's not broken. And it runs from the northwest to the southeast, and the axis of it is cutting right through Vanuatu, right through Port Vila, actually. And there is going to be rain down in the Tana area, looking at some of these clouds there. And then it continues southeast, and it will is lying just south of Kandavu, and it's catching the southern Lao, and clouds are moving toward Tonga. And by that I mean probably the Hapais and the Tonga Tapu area. Up in Vavau, not too bad. We've got low clouds moving from east to west, and they're just a lot of cumulus, a little bit of stratus, and that would be nothing but an isolated shower, typical of the tropics. So anyway, I'm going to do the same probably tomorrow. In fact, every day up until we get the models in total agreement. But those of you that are in Tonga, particularly the Hapais and the Tonga Tapu area, really need to look at a good spot to get that hook in there. And looking at the winds, it's troublesome because we're getting a reversal by some of the models, and that doesn't make it easy to anchor. If EC happens to be correct, then it's not so bad, northeast to north, looking at the Friday time frame. But then again, it swings to the southwest the next day. So if you're in Tonga Tapu, you've got two choices, and you know what they are. I was going to talk about some of the choices today, but maybe I'll do that tomorrow. But those of you who are there, you know where you're supposed to go. I don't have anything else, so I'm going to...
New Zealand, you do.
Oh, God, yes. For the folks that want to leave this wonderful weather we're having here in New Zealand. Uh,
You're
are we
right.
getting a shower? No, no, we don't have a shower at the moment, but we did. So anyway, those of you that are really anxious to get up there, things don't look bad at all. We've got a nice big high that's coming, that is in basically. Uh, the center of it is over southeastern Australia, but it's ridging out towards us. The axis of the main ridge actually is heading right toward Tongatapu, believe it or not. And what could I say? So basically, southwest winds for those of you that are taking off, say, tomorrow, and looking at Wednesday, the same thing, southwest. And by Thursday, you should be up to 30 south, and the same thing, southwest winds. And then by Friday, that's where there's trouble. And this is the polar dip area. Uh, I'm looking at the date line right now, and I'm looking at the polar dip causing uh, actually just the start of cyclonic movement in the air. Anyway, to make a long story short, the winds are going to pick up. The isobars are compressed at that point, and you are going to have, depending upon where you are, you might have southeast if you stay to the west, but a lot of people like to go east with the the traditional way of heading up to Fiji. Get the easting in, and that makes it easier as the isobars swing around. But in this case, that's not a good idea because you're going to run right into this low as it forms. So I don't know. There's one boat that's very, very fast. We know it's a 16-meter catamaran, I think, that probably averages 10 knots. So it could be right in the center of this thing, or it could actually beat it, totally beat it up to Fiji. Anyway, I warn you, folks that are leaving, because this is almost like the Queen's birthday storm start. That was well to the west of where this one is. So this one, we are very fortunate that all the models pretty much agree that when it does form, it will meander east and then start to go east southeast. And as we heard, the Papeete weather forecasting is calling for it to graze Tahiti as it moves that way. So anyway, the only reason I mention that is we always take heed of any tropical depression that forms at this time of the year. Uh, it is potentially very, very dangerous. And we talked about the swells getting up to 7.5 to 8 meters. Uh, it it's it will destroy boats, and it's just not the thing to be anywhere near. Now, those heading to Fiji probably are going to be fine, but just keep all that in mind and keep looking as you're planning your trip. You're establishing your ETA. Look at your weather, uh, at least what the models think is going to happen when you arrive at Fiji or say Kandavu, a little bit further south. And if the models are pretty consistent as far as the weather between here and there, then you're going to be fine. But just watch it, because there is always a remote chance that everything could be a little bit further west than predicted, and if that's the case, that is no fun. So anyway, I don't want to scare anybody that's wanting to leave, ready to leave, and probably going to leave, but just keep all this stuff in mind and have an out for this. So in other words, if it looks like this things are wrong, things are going very wrong, and you need to get out of it. So you've got probably the easiest thing to look at is to head toward Vanuatu or even New Caledonia, even in spite of the fact that it's not too pleasant there at the moment politically. But anyway, have an out for rapidly going someplace else if it looks like this thing is not going to go as predicted. So that's all I can say is just be prepared. And that's it for me. So tomorrow we'll do almost the same thing, looking at the variations in these models. I look at other ones, as you know. I'm just naming these two, EC and GFS, as the main ones. The more models you throw into the equation, the more confused anybody could become. And in fact, you might lose some of your hair pulling it because things are not in agreement. And you shouldn't expect them to be in agreement. Going out 8, 10 days, as I've said, I don't know how many times, these models are just an idea. So keep that in mind. And here is the chief. In fact, she's not feeling a whole lot better, but she's going to. Yes, she's grabbing for the microphone. Here she is.
Well, I can see that Chameleon probably wouldn't take off this week. David is always very nervous about these intense lows that form, like this one has formed, and regardless of the way that the models might suggest otherwise, I think that Chameleon would be, and I know we did exactly this one here until such time as I was freezing to death on a mooring up there in Russell, and decided that we should in fact leave, and it wasn't a good idea. But anyway, enough of that. Well, he just is nervous about lows like that, unless you're a very fast boat. And I know a couple of the boats that are probably listening are not very fast boats. All right, is there anybody wanting to discuss anything or do anything before we go back to the front of the fire?
Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, I thought I heard something there. Was there anybody there?
Hey, Wilbur.
Oh, hello, Matt. It's interesting. I didn't hear you coming through on the other system, and I thought I heard something. Go ahead.
No, I just tried to chime in. So, hey, just go wow about the U.S. and wow about the weather. Wow. What an amazing time we're on, huh?
Yeah, well, actually hearing your voice reminded me of what we woke up listening to this morning, which I forgot to mention, but I presume everybody has caught up with the fact that President Biden has elected not to put himself forward for the nominee's position in the current election. So it is going to be very, very exciting following what happens in the US of A over the next 2 or 3 weeks. A good decision. It's a pity he didn't make it without being forced to make it, but anyway, he's finally made that decision, and everyone has breathed a sigh of relief everywhere. So anyway, yeah, there is an awful lot going on. It's interesting, isn't it? And yep, well, the weather, it's been long. The people that left early this year have had a really good time of it, but the ones that left it a bit later, and sometimes July can be quite settled, but boy, it is certainly not settled at the moment. So I see where you guys are up there, and hopefully all will be well, and at least you'll be able to see what's happening in the main city of Tonga. So and plenty of time to get organised. Are you going to stay put or move north? Over.
We're going to move north. We're going to do that tomorrow morning early, and it's been a section up there that with the winds, it looks like, potentially, let's see again. So that's kind of our thought, is we'll move up. We've got a couple days of, reasonable weather with the easterly winds and stuff, so we'll move up and then hope for better protection up there, okay?
Yeah, there's lots of good places up there. I would much rather be up there than down there outside Pangamotu. So, yep, good decision. Funny enough, we spent a lot of time going to and fro with the wind changes one year. Pangamotu down to just outside of the harbour there, and then we'd go to that little island whose name I don't really know, that's just off there, and then we'd go back again, and it was sort of to and fro, and I always remember it because there was a very large and very new luxury sailboat, one of these big ones that was on its way to Monaco actually, and it had had a dreadful time at sea, and it arrived and it planted itself right in the middle of the bay there at Tongatapu, and they'd had a man overboard, they had a mast, oh no, it was the boom broke or something.
Carbon fiber
boom broke. That was a disaster. And they just arrived there and they just plonked themselves down right in the middle of the shipping channel and just were obviously thoroughly exhausted. So this is not unusual weather, but anyway. All right, good to talk to you. We'll talk to you at sea tomorrow night probably, so that will be of interest. So we'll clear with Rubicon. Is there anybody else? No, thank you for letting us know that the radio is still in fact working, and hello to Zumax over there in what will be a very tranquil place at the moment, and good evening to you, Bob. This is Gulf Harbour Radio. We are clear, and don't forget, if anybody knows about the boat Oz Magic, that's the 13-metre catamaran that is somewhere between Pango Pango and Papeete, or somewhere around the Cooks, please let me know, or go direct to the RCC, which is RCCNZ at maritimenewzealand.co.nz, and of course we're GH Radio at extra.xtra.co.nz. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.